I have learned a lot from middle school. There's a lot of things I can tell you guys firsthand. So, the first thing I'm going to tell you about is the graffiti. A lot of kids just do weird stuff in middle school. And one of the things is graffiti. Like, they like to write all around the walls, usually stuff where the teacher won't see and under desks. They also like to stick gum under the desks, and they write a lot of weird stuff all around, like under the desks and inside of the bathrooms. It's also a lot of stuff that isn't school appropriate, like Gentiles and curse words. Stuff that happens all the time. The school usually doesn't do anything about it unless it's big. Like, someone actually once threw a Gentile onto a pillar in a school, and it was up for everybody to see. And that's something that they're definitely going to take out. And what I was just talking about is very similar to what I'm going to say next. Second thing is the way kids behave. Kids do a lot of other inappropriate things too. Like, I see a lot of them on their phones watching inappropriate stuff. A lot of them just make inappropriate noises too, like quietly during tests. And then when the teacher catches them, they act like they did nothing. It's just a thing a lot of them do because they're weird. You might as well not snitch on them, because then the class is probably going to hate you for that, and they're going to think you're just a snitch and everything. So just let them be. Let them get in trouble, and if they don't, Now the third thing I want to advise you guys about is locker rooms. Sometimes you don't have a choice of what you get to wear in PE. Some of them will make you have uniforms. Like in my older school, you'd have to wear blue shorts and a gray t-shirt. Sometimes it's even stricter, like only one certain outfit, like one that has the school logo on it. You have to keep that outfit for the entire year. In my school, we were actually forced to wear them, and we had to change in front of other people in a locker room. Like, there were stalls, but they said no dressing in the stalls, and we had to dress our locker. So that means you're changing all around your entire class. It just gets awkward because you're undressing. So, if there's anything wrong with your skin or your body that you don't like, I don't want other people to see, you can try doing something like having your uniform under your clothes the entire day. Or anything else, like maybe you try putting a white t-shirt under your clothes, like underneath the shirt. Hopefully they'll accept that. Nobody ever tried that in my older school, but it was never not allowed either. So you might as well try. If not, putting it under your clothes is always the best option. Now, I don't know if this is a common thing in schools or not, but there might even also be showering in front of other people, which means you're completely naked showering in front of your classmates. I mean, I've seen it in movies and I've heard about it. Luckily, they never did in my school. There were a few showers which for some reason didn't have curtains. Nobody used them. We were never forced to. Hopefully other schools don't. As far as I know, as far as I know, only my school doesn't. But just in case, that might be something that goes on, and that's something you should be warned about. Honestly, I don't know why they do this. It's just how middle school was made. Something somebody decided to do, and they thought it was okay. Now everybody's doing it. Now, the fourth thing I want to mention is how the standards of different classes work. I believe in a lot of these schools, you have 4 main classes, which is math, science, language arts, and history. Then there's 2 or more classes that you could get to pick as extra, like art and PE. It's not always going to be the same exact 3 classes like in elementary school. And so with all these different classes, you're going to have a schedule. The schedule can always change. Oh yeah, schedule isn't really what I wanted to talk about. It's how the standards work in different classes. Some classes have different expectations for their kids. Like, they might be fine with you using notebook paper every day, but in others, they want you to use a notebook. Sometimes they even want you to use your own notebook, which is what every single class was like in my middle school. So you're going to be buying 6 notebooks. Then you're probably going to be buying a lot of extra stuff too if that class wants you to bring it. Like, what if my classes actually wanted the kids to bring binders? And so there's a lot of different things that other teachers might do and others don't. Like, some are more strict than others, and others are nicer, which makes the kids act a lot different in different classes. Like, in my math class, everybody has to be on their best behavior, and if somebody just says a bad word once, the whole class stares at them. That's how unusual it is. Then in a class like PE, everybody goes all out. Like, PE was not strict at all in my class, especially this year. There are other things classes are strict and not strict on, like what you do with backpacks in case your school doesn't have lockers. Last I checked, a lot of schools, including mine, have been being built without lockers for safety reasons, so your school might be like that too. Most of my classes would have is put it under a desk, or, well, just wherever you want, but then others want you to put it a certain place, like only under your desk. Then the teacher would have to keep reminding you if you forgot, and get mad if you still kept forgetting. And you have to get used to which classes want you to do that and which ones don't want you to do that. And there are other things with how assignments work. Like with one class, you have to remember to do the weekly homework. Then in another class, they just give occasional homework. So you have to keep track with all of that and remember it. It takes a lot of brain power to memorize all of this stuff, know what other classes want. So the best thing you can do is like take notes on it and then probably read over it every single night, just maybe for a couple minutes so you can remember what the class has to do. Now, the fifth thing I want to list is punishments. Usually in middle school, punishments you get from doing things that are simple or really bad goes like 3 times higher. For example, I went to climb the fence in elementary school because like a kid was coming after me, like threatening to fight. This was like by the border of school property to the parking lot. Not really off school property. But when I did that and I got over, I was just made to go to in-school suspension, like detention, for that. And they even called my parents. Yes, my elementary school had detention because the kids were that bad. If you did that in middle school, you'd be suspended. And then there was fights. Like with any decent fight that had punching and stuff, where nobody got seriously hurt, in elementary school, I just get a referral, which is like a note home, but then guess it's on your record. There are a lot of rumors of what happens if you get a lot of them. But then if you do that in middle school, you're going to be expelled. Yes, a regular fight leads to expulsion. Sometimes it can change depending on the fight. Like if I just do this to a kid, and they do it back, and we're doing it at the same time, that's considered a fight. Well, the person who didn't start would get a referral, and then the person who did would get a suspension. And then for like an even bigger fight, which is in front of the entire school, and people are like using books as weapons and stuff, something like that, the person who didn't start would get expelled, and probably the person who didn't would get arrested. It's happened. In normal fights in middle school, kids have been arrested for it, and that's a very serious thing. So you should always take the school rules seriously, or else it might be one of the biggest mistakes of your life. I'm not joking. And then there's work. Work in middle school is very quickly paced compared to elementary school. Like, we'd always have to take a lot of notes in our notebook almost every day, and it'd be quickly paced. Like, they expect us to write 3 sentences of notes in 1.5 minutes. It'd be kind of hard. And then they would also make you work the entire period. From the moment you got in, there's no chit-chat time or bathroom time. You would have to start working the moment you'd come in. They usually have you do something like bell work, which is something for a few minutes that I would say should take more than a few minutes, but that's the time that they give you. And then, yeah, there's a lot of notes that are taken too. Some classes do it more than others, but language art classes do it the least. Then in my math class, boy, was it fast. Like, once I don't remember exactly how fast it was when I was in 6th and 7th grade, but in 8th grade, it was like crazy. A lot of my classes would have me do 1 page of notes every single day or more. That would be average. Like, we'd have to do the bell work and then with the remaining period time for each period, which is like 50 minutes, I'd have to wipe through a whole page of notes or more. And this is like no breaks at all. So my hand started hurting every single day as I was writing notes. It was hard. Sometimes I'd have to do more. Like in one period, I had 4 pages of notes, which is actually, it was a 2-hour period instead of a 1-hour period, so it was twice as long. That's still 2 pages of notes in 1 hour. I usually don't even finish what they have me write. Let me show you guys an example. Right here where it's divided is where I start the next day. I can't waste any notebook paper. And then right here is like the heading for what it is. And I do the problems for it, which as you can see, I do not put spaces in between number 1 and number 2. Once again, to save notebook space, because they make you write that much. I even bought an extra notebook for the year. In one of my classes, I had to use it. Right here are the notes. See all of these notes? This is what we'd have to write in 1 class period. This is minus the bill work, which would leave me with less than an hour. Like 50 minutes max. Get all of this down. And like I said, it's sometimes more than that, which means you have to do a lot of extra things. For example, in order to save time, I sometimes do things like skip certain words, and I even misspell things. If there's an error, I just keep it there. And since I have to write so fast, that's why my handwriting is so bad. I don't even know how a lot of kids make it, like, writing as fast as me, yet they still have such good handwriting. Some of them even faster. I mean, my handwriting is good at times, but that's only if you give me time. If you don't, it's just gonna look like this. There's more things I do. For example, right here where it's underlined, that's basically the heading. I usually didn't do that for heading. I'd make it more like this, but then that's only for the top of the notebook. Then after that, I would put the heading on the line, and then use a colon to separate it from the regular writing. For example, if you're graphing a shape, like right here, you usually make it big, but then I almost make it the size as the text I'm writing, well, the words, not text, just so that I can fit in and I don't waste any space. Like, I use the space in this notebook. I don't waste it. And so even when I have to write inside of a shape right here, I make it smaller. And also, sometimes when I'm writing graphs, I have to write in between 2 lines. Like something that'd be worthy of 2 lines, I'd write in 1 notebook space line. I'd have to write kind of small. Something else you can do other than buying another notebook is buying a notebook with more sheets and buying a college-ruled notebook. That's my suggestion. So now I'm going to go over some things you guys might be wondering about middle school. For one, how much homework do we get? It actually changes. On average, it's the same amount you guys get, if not less. And you guys might think that's really weird, especially for a change to middle school, and how much different it is, like everything that I described. But the thing is, it's still kind of hard. The thing about homework in middle school is that it's not the same exact schedule of stuff you guys get in elementary school. Like, it's not the same math sheet, not the spelling words and limit reading and stuff like that every night on repeat. It changes. Some classes still do scheduled work, but most of them do occasional work. The 6 or so classes you'll have, it's already going to add up a lot, even if the classes just give out homework occasionally. It's going to be hard. Like, you have, like, another thing that makes it hard is having to remember the fact that you have to do this certain assignment, which is how a lot of kids forget to do their homework. Because it's kind of complicated. Which is why you guys should always keep a planner or an extra book to write down what you have to remember for that school day. And most importantly, write down the homework that you have to do. Sometimes it can still take for even longer than just doing the homework. Like, say if they assign it online and you have to figure out what you have to do, what you have to get done. And then sometimes you also have to remember when you have to finish the homework, like if you have to turn it tomorrow, if it's due next week. Sometimes the confusion and time wasting that you do, like working on it for too long or trying to find it and doing something turns out you didn't even have to do, already makes it hard enough. So that's one thing you guys should know. And also, how hard is it or easy is it to get bullied? Like, just because you have crutches means you're gonna get bullied automatically? Not really. It's not that easy. Like, if you're just normally fat or have to use crutches, doesn't mean you'll instantly get bullied. Maybe for something bigger, like if you're bald or if you're like probably 4 feet shorter than the average kid, which is like an extremely rare thing to happen, but that's probably something. However, just anything not so normal but not that completely unusual, like using crutches, won't immediately make you get bullied. I mean, the kids in middle school aren't like literally legit that bad, like how some kid could just randomly start picking on you. But for any sort of other reasons, like there are some other things that kids get bullied more often for, like if you happen to be a snitch. Then there's actually a weird one I got bullied a lot for. Like in 5th grade, every single kid in my class had messed with me at some sort of time of the year, most of them more than once. In fact, I think only one had only done it once. First, I didn't understand. Like, I'm not fatter than the other kids. I don't do anything weird and all that. But actually, I thought about it. I did sometimes do things like, there was this one time I was just far away from everybody else on the playground and typically wasn't with other kids. And I was sort of like, I didn't even have any real friends because a lot of the kids in my schools act like in my county, it's pretty bad. How the kids behave and how the discipline works in these schools. I think it should have been more strict, especially in the elementary schools. The one that I went to had almost gotten shut down because of how bad the management was. So, at first I was thinking I did sometimes do things like jump up and touch the doorway and hide stuff, which kind of made you seem like a show-off. As I was saying, I guess that's why some kids mess with me. I'm guessing all of the kids have to, every single student, especially who don't have friends, deal with getting messed with at some time of the year. It's just what happens.